Hello, it's Fran from psychicandenergywork.com.au, and this is the first of 4 YouTube videos about 2025 as a year, as a spiritual development zone, and as a numerological chart. I'm going to be comparing in this video 2025 against 2024. And I suppose where I'll start is 8 to 9, because 2024, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 equals 8, whereas 2025 equals 9. Now, in themselves, those two numbers talk about a big shift. 8 can be a very, very busy time. And if you look at any of my observations or watch any of my videos from last year, you would have heard me saying that quite a lot. 8, in one sense, it's the last burst of energy in the 9-year cycle. It's a time when we really hit home, whether that's spiritually, energetically, or even in a physically active sense. 9 is a time that is devoted, as I say, in this year's observations on the website, psychicandenergywork.com.au. I outline how 9 is very much about closure. Now, closure is interesting, isn't it? Because we can get that word, we can understand what that word means, and yet spiritually, on a very doing, living it, learning it, and working through it level, we can still not necessarily comprehend at first everything that might put us through. The nice thing about 9 is that it is a sorter. And what that means is that 9 can be a time that really helps us get to the point of readiness that is required to actually make the next seconds unfold well. So 9 isn't just go sort it out or close it off. It's actually about dealing with things so completely that you leave the issues or the questions, the doubts, the fears, the grievances even, that stemmed from that moment. You leave them fully behind because you've worked through them completely. So 9, in a sense, it is completion. And yes, all right, that can be, shall we say, just a state attainment, but 9 is often a period where we come to a point where we feel as if we've ended whatever we're being asked to conclude. We feel like we've come fully to the understanding, to the wisdom, and therefore to the point where we are ready to actually shift into our next chapter, into our next installment of book writing as a life, as a path, and as a journey. In this sense, 9 can at times feel quite cruel, because the objective of 9, understanding that it is a passive number, not an active number, it is to help us sit still. So at times when passive numbers prevail, and 2025 in itself isn't passive, it's active. 2 is active, it's go out and merge, it's go out and socialise, you with me? Learn by doing. And 8 is also a learn by doing number. Yeah, so our 2025 is made up predominantly of active numbers and therefore active dynamics, getting things done, conquering them. Yeah, but 9 in itself can be a period that makes people sit still, and therefore at times plays out as if self is being cornered. Sometimes passive phases can feel a bit like a punishment. I'm ready to get going. I know what I need. Yeah, stop giving me a hard time, life. Can you just help me get on and achieve whatever that is defined as being? So 9 periods, like all passive numbers, like all numbers in one sense, they're here to help us. They're here, shall we say, to deliver a certain level of cod liver oil, not necessarily because it's unpleasant or horrible, but a certain level of trust the universe, know what it's doing, and to the degree that you are forced to slow down, to the degree that you are forced to go spring clean your room a bit on any level, that's actually life taking care of you and not allowing you to run too far forward on the outdated principles or approaches that you're currently running with. And they may not be totally out of balance. Could just be that they're out of balance 1%, 2%. But 9 periods help us close those things off in a way that then we walk free of them. So another aspect of 9 is a sense of having arrived at those moments. It is the sense of, I'm feeling lighter. I am feeling sorted. I'm feeling clearer, more resolute, more resilient, and more ready to get on than I have in this way for a while. Now, flowing on from that is the 5, because again, obviously in 2025, we've got that 5 at the end. As I mentioned at the beginning of this year's observations on the website, it is important to look at how a single digit is made up. And 2025 tells us that it is partly through living with, experiencing, and therefore learning through as a result of 5 dynamics that we actually come to our closure, that we come to our readiness to start a whole new book and a whole new chapter next year all over again. 5 in itself, I've outlined what 5 can be from a number of angles in the first 2 sections of my observations about this year. On the website psychicandenergywork.com.au. One thing I haven't mentioned, though, is the fact, and I will be mentioning it during the year, no set of observations is a complete dialogue on numbers by any means. There's just so much to say. But 5 is not only adventure, it's not only stretch, it's also patience, it's tolerance, it's forgiveness. And none of those things are supposed to involve a sacrifice of self that doesn't feel right. Now, that's a really interesting statement, isn't it? Because even if we're in our egoic boots, if we're being asked to sacrifice an aspect of ego or child, we can view it very much as wrong, depending on how far we've worked through it. But 5, in a sense, can signal the need to use breath, the need to draw upon what you've learned so far so as to manifest the right end result, so as to channel that wisdom that you learned in the previous cycles. And this is also where 2025 reducing to 9 is interesting, because of course the 8 period, which was last year, it was very much a time that was helping people really clarify what mattered, what worked, what's needed really on a spiritual level, on a truly, really, really level, rather than perhaps at more superficial depths. So in a sense, 2024, 8 as a phase, was teaching us the difference between wants and needs. Numbers speak of both aspect, every number. And with every number, there is the needy self, the wanting self, that isn't necessarily too terribly interested in things like spirituality or harmony or balance or holistic health, even if it sort of is. It's more focused, consciously or not, on fulfilling its ambitions, fulfilling or even reinforcing what it knows without necessarily doing all the checks that are needed to make sure that it's stepping forward in all the right ways, as we all can. So 2025 speaks, yes, of the need to stretch, yes, of the need to grow, but also the need to be patient. And of course, because we're talking about collective dynamics, these words start to become important, because of course we can be so ready to act. We can be so sure that we know enough to zoom off in any direction, and often we do on one level. And yet the purpose of 2025, which reduces to 9, in part, is about helping to slow us down enough so that any sense of tension, any sense of, shall we say, excess enthusiasm, I know to the point where I am project managing and driving in a way that I'm not really witnessing everything I need to right now. All of those dynamics will be heightened from time to time in a way that we all become aware of, we all have to process, and we all learn through and therefore come to channel wiser, better, deeper again. And here again is where we come back to that 9, because 9 is conclude the lesson. In a sense, you could say 9 is the point where mastery emerges. More importantly, it is the point through which mastery emerges as a completed lesson, rather than a lesson that is still in the process of completing. So this year speaks of some really good developments personally, collectively, small group, big group, global group, even interplanetary group. Be aware of that, embrace that, and most importantly, of course, as I'll be alluding to in my other 3 videos about this year, it is a time that is about connecting well, connecting to divine guidance, not astral, not mind, not just human, in a way that allows you to really understand what you sense, to place it as yours or not, to place it fairly, squarely, accurately, and spiritually, in a way that then sees us all getting ready to take off in the next moment. So all the very best. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Feel free to go back to the website now and read more about 2025 as a birth number, as a learning curve and development zone, so as to then move into the second video about 2025 here. All the very best. Take good care.